All right, round two. We were just saying how Oedipus is putting all this together. This was on page 41. I turned to page 42. So before we get here, Jocasta told Oedipus, like, this servant is the only one that gave us these details. Now, thinking about Oedipus, right, on page 42, he is what we might call tenacious, right? Like, he will not stop. He will not allow this understanding to be incomplete at all. He is irresistibly driven to find out the answers here, right? Which could be part of his tragic flaw. Okay, page 43, he's still pressing, like, is the servant still here? And Jocasta says, we sent him, right? He wanted to be sent into the country, so now there's a shepherd, right? He's got a shepherd's life. All right, Oedipus is like, get him here. And Jocasta's like, why do you ask? And he says, well, again, there are things that are left unsaid. I need to know, right? Tenacious, unyielding, will not stop. All right, so Oedipus says at the bottom of page 43, you see, for I have passed into territories of fear, such threatenings of fate, and he's going to say, this is what I know, right? So he's going to say, he's addressing what he's heard. Now, this is like a little flashback that he's telling her about. My father was Corinthian, Polybus, and my mother was Dorian, called Merope. So if I'm you, I just had two new characters to add to my sort of family tree. So the king and queen of Corinth, Polybus and Merope. That's who he thinks his parents are. I was the city's foremost man until a certain incident befell. A curious incident, though hardly worth the ferment that it put me in. He says, at dinner once, a drunkard in his cup bawled out, aha, you're not your father's son, basically saying, you're adopted. All that day I fretted, hardly able to contain my hurt, but on the next day, straight away I went to ask my mother and my father, who were shocked at such a random slur. I was relieved by their response, and yet the thing hatched a scruple in my mind, which grew so deep that it made me steal away from home to Delphi, same oracle, right? And there Apollo, never hinting what I came to hear, packs me home again, my ears ringing with some other things. He blurted out. Horrible, disgusting things. Okay, so seemingly, right, he heard the curse. How mating How mating with my mother, I must spawn a progeny to make men shudder, having been my father's murderer. So he heard about the curse while he was in Corinth. So he said, oh, I fled from there. I measured out the stars to put all heaven in between the land of Corinth and such a damned destiny. All the stars in heaven, right? This is hyperbole, the extreme lengths, so that he would not fulfill this curse. Again, fate versus free will. He's trying to take it into his own hands. And as I went, I stumbled on the very spot where this king you say has met his end. I'll tell the truth to you, my wife. As I reached this triple parting of the ways, again, a crossroads, right? A herald and a man like you described in a colt-drawn chariot came. The leading groom, the old man urging him, tried to force me off the road. Remember that road rage? The groom jostled me, and I, in fury, landed him a blow. Okay, so the guy, like, roughed him up a little, and he's like, psh, right, Oedipus, and I would totally make you guys act this out in class, minus actual physical violence if we were there. Instead, you just get me. When the old man sees, he waits till I'm abreast, and then from his chariot cracks down on me, full on my head, a double-headed club. Okay, so like when Laius, who he doesn't know is Laius, sees that Oedipus has like hit his man, Laius comes down and like hits Oedipus on the head. Oedipus then says, he more than paid for it, for in a trice this hand of mine had felled him with a stick and rolled him from the chariot stunned. I killed him. I killed them all. Ah, if Laius is this unknown man, there's no one in this world so doomed as I. Okay, so think about what this reveals about his personality, maybe his hubris, his pride, like knowing that, or maybe that he has taken things to extreme. Like, you don't have to go and kill everybody in a road rage situation, right? Also, this idea, he was on the road in the first place because he's trying to escape his fate. He is using his self-will and putting his, not looking to the gods for anything, but trying to control it all himself. There's no one born, so God abhorred, which means God hated, a man whom no one, citizen or stranger, can let into his house or even greet, a man to force from homes. And who but I have done it all? Myself, to fix damnation on myself. Remember, he cursed the killer in episode 1. So like he has to leave now, right? He called that upon himself. To clasp a dead man's wife with filthy hands, these hands by which he fell. So right now, he's only thinking about what? That he killed the king. He has no idea that he's married to his mother, right? He's just like, I'm such a bad person because I killed a king and I married the king's wife. So that's bad in itself, right? He doesn't even know the other part. Not hellborn then, not rotten to the core, a wretch who has to flee, yet cannot go home to see mine own, or I will make my mother's wife, my father dead. He still thinks he's from Corinth, right? He's like, I can't go home because then I'm going to kill my father and marry my mother. Okay, forbid, most holy gods, never let that day begin. I'd rather disappear from man than myself so beggared, died so deep in sin. All right. And then let's see. What do my little notes say here? He will become this, right? This is ironic because he is going to, like, it's all going to come out and he is going to become a beggar and sort of died. And we'll talk about how he's died. There's going to be blood involved, so deep in sin. Now, he mentioned the crossroads. At a crossroads, I think Emmy, shout out, in Block 8 brought this up earlier. A choice must be made, right? A decision that has important consequences, but different choices are still possible. At the time, Oedipus did not know that he was actually making a fateful choice, right? So if we had to talk about fate versus free will, fate ends up coming through because he went along with what was said there. Okay, so the chorus is like, have hope, hang on. They don't want to like give this up yet, right? There's this shepherd who maybe can tell us what happened. Oedipus is like, yes, all my hope is on a herdsman now. I wrote second time in his life because it was the herdsman who saved him in the beginning when he had his feet tied, brought him up to Mount Kithaeron, and gave him to the other shepherd. Okay, but what is it you want to hear? And Oedipus says just this. If his account is yours, then I'm clear. Jocasta says, what was my account? Oedipus says, why, several bandits, he claimed, cut down the king. So remember, back to episode 1, the one guy that knew something said it was several bandits, the brigands, right? And Oedipus knows, of course, that he was alone. So if this guy who has the clue says it's just him, he's going to be fine. Jocasta still seemed pretty good, right? She says, like, he rest assured his account was that. If he tries to change it now, like, oh, surely, king, the death of Laius tallied with this oracle, which said it had to happen through a son of mine, poor babe who never killed a thing, but himself was killed long before. After this, I'll never change my look from left to right to suit a prophecy. So she's like, I am like not going to change my actions to avoid fate. She's she's impious here. Like, she's basically like, this didn't happen because we killed that baby. And still Oedipus is like, okay, cool. I like your reasoning. And yet let's get the herdsman. All right. So Jocasta, all my care is you, all my pleasure yours. And we go, ew, gross, because they are mother and son. All right. We're jumping to page, we have here 49. This is going to be part of the third episode. I skipped over our chorus. You need to read it. You need to look at the summary on page 47 and then kind of go through and look at, the chorus talks about a lot of illusions, I think, but they're kind of commenting on Jocasta throwing off the power of fate there. All right, the third episode starts. Jocasta's in. She's come in with a garland and burning incense. On page 48, she says, men of state, I have a new design with these garlands with incense in my hands. Let's see. On page 49, all my advice is bankrupt. I address myself to you, Apollo. Let's see, we're going to pieces at the sight of him, the steersman of the ship. So, like, she seems kind of worried, right? This is not going very well. So a messenger comes in. And he's like, can you tell me, good sirs, where is the palace of Oedipus? Where's the king? The chorus is like, he's within. This lady is the wife, ... and mother, of his children. So this is that kind of gross part about what has happened in the prophecy. The messenger's good news, like blessed, everybody's blessed. The irony here is that they've been cursed, actually. All right, Jocasta says, okay, what news do you have? The messenger comes in with happy news for both your house and your husband. From where, Jocasta says? That I messed up my scanning. From Corinth on page 50. Oh, a pleasing piece of news. So we're all like, woohoo, what's so great? The messenger says, but he also says it's a little bittersweet. The messenger says the king-elect of Corinth is he. So runs the order and council here. So he basically says, okay, Oedipus is going to be the king of Corinth. And Jocasta says, how so? Polybus is still alive. And the messenger says, no, death has sealed him in his grave. And Jocasta's like, what? Is his father dead? The messenger says, yes, it's true. On my life, he's dead. And Jocasta is really excited here, right? Because now Oedipus had fled from Corinth, and he can go back now, right? The man that he was so scared he was going to kill is dead. But we all know that that was never his father in the first place. Okay, so Oedipus comes in, and Jocasta, he's like, why am I here? Why have you called me? Jocasta says, listen to this man, right? How dwindled and grand are the predictions of Apollo on the top of page 51. That shows her hubris, right? She's like, this is like nothing. The predictions from the gods, no big deal. All right. Oedipus is like, who is this? What does he come to say? Jocasta says, where is it? A man from Corinth come to let you know your father is no more. There's double meaning in that, right? Your father is not existing. He's literally dead. But also, we're going to find out not who you think he was. Old Polybus is dead. Oedipus is like, seriously? Is that what happened? They kind of go through that. Oedipus says, aha, my wife, we are done with these oracles. He's challenging them there. The birds, and they foretold all this, and like, we are done. Page 52. Again, everything's worth nothing now. Jocasta's like, yes, I told you that. Oedipus says, I was sick with fear. Now, Jocasta sort of dismisses fate here. There's nothing certain, nothing preordained. Like, fate does not happen. Oedipus says, like, if my mother weren't alive, or my mother not alive, she is, so all your comfort cannot quiet me. So that's ironic because of his marriage situation. But also he's like, it's still not, like, she's still alive, so maybe that could happen. And Jocasta said, at least your father's death has lightened up the scene there, which kind of, it is going to enlighten as well who Oedipus is. All right, I skipped pages on here a little bit. Oedipus on page 53 at the bottom. Let's see. No, you may be told, Apollo once declared that I would couple with my mother, and with these hands of mine spill out the lifeblood of my father, all of which put me far and long from Corinth, in sweet prosperity maybe. But what's so sweet as looking into parents' eyes? That may foreshadow some events that are to come. And the messenger says, is this the fear that drove you out of Corinth? And Oedipus says, yes. And then the messenger on page 54, they kind of go through different like questions and answers, and the messenger says some things that Oedipus starts questioning again, right? Page 55. Don't you understand? You're terrified for nothing. Like, you could go back home if you wanted to. Oedipus says, nothing. I am their son. The messenger says, Polybus and you were worlds apart. Scroll a little bit further down. Exactly so. He never gave you life more than I have. And if we kept going, this is 56 and 57. This may be some stickomythia, right? As they're sort of the clues are coming out. The messenger says, discovered in a woody mountain dell of Kithaeron. Jocasta has gone pale. Let's pause a minute for Jocasta, right? Because there's a light bulb in her head going off. The messenger says, like, I used to graze my flocks out there, and I'm the one that found you. And the messenger says, on that day, I was your savior too, which is ironic because he'd probably be better off dead. He gave him his name on page 57, which we talked about meaning swollen foot. And the messenger says, I didn't find you another shepherd